Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with another one of the world's most beautiful melodies. And this one is really fun. It comes to us from, hang on a second, let me get this set up here. Richard Sauer, who has chosen Liszt's Liebestraum number 3. And I know this is going to be a juicy, controversial selection. So thank you, Richard. I think this is a fabulous, fabulous case to discuss the aesthetics of a beautiful melody. So what does Richard say about the Liebestraum number 3? He writes as follows. Liszt's indestructible Liebestraum number 3. Call it cloying. Call it junk. I think it's the best 4-minute musical embodiment of yearning ever composed. A quick survey on YouTube reveals a cornucopia of Liebestraums in arrangements for cello, flute, harp, string quartet, electric guitar, full orchestra, and even ragtime band. Thank you, Richard, for doing that research. There are ancient recordings and new recordings. As Margot Channing says in All About Eve, Margot, Liebestraum, pianist, I just played it. Margot, play it again. Pianist, but that was the 4th straight time. Margot, then this will be the 5th. Thank you, Richard. That's a wonderful, wonderful introduction to this perennial piece of pianistic, sublimity. Is it indeed? You know, one of the things I wrote in my Classical Music's 10 Dirtiest Secrets is Liszt is trash, period. That is a secret, one of them. And many of you have assumed that because I am compiling Classical Music's 10 Dirtiest Secrets, that they reflect my own personal point of view. I got news for you. They don't. Not at all. I love Liszt. I think Liszt is brilliant. I really do. Yeah, he wrote some junk, but so did most people who wrote tons and tons and tons of music, as Liszt did. But there is something about Liszt that's worth talking about and worth mentioning, and that's this. He was not really a tunesmith. Liszt's best tunes are all borrowed or shaped from something borrowed. Think about like the Hungarian Rhapsodies, for example, or, there's a bunch of other ones too. Yes, he wrote tunes, but his original themes tend not to be as distinctive as the ones he got from like Bellini and Donizetti and Wagner, all those opera paraphrases, all those transcriptions that he did. I think in his heart he probably knew that writing tunes wasn't exactly his forte. Liszt was a brilliant and adventuresome harmonist. His exploitation of romantic harmony was amazing. And that's what could have gotten him into trouble, too, because he was so questing and exploratory in his use of harmony that sometimes he did things that were amazing, and sometimes he did things that were just tacky. But the interesting thing about the Liebestraum is that it began life as an actual song, a real, honest-to-goodness, actual song that, gets sung, that kind of song, to actual words. And, you know what the words are about because Liebestraum, dream of love, right? There were 3 of them originally. And let's take a look at some of the original words. Now, German Romantic poetry is, as Anna Russell said, rather soggy. And I mean, boy, is it soggy. And it is nowhere more soggy than when it talks about love and, of course, death. And if you can do the 2 of them together, then it's really in its element. You have soggy love and even soggier death. And this particular poem is about just that, as you can well imagine. So let's take a look here. I have it written down. Wait a minute, so that I could share some of it with you. Because if you think I'm going to memorize this, you got something else coming. Okay, so the name of the poem is O Lieb, solang du lieben kannst. In other words, oh love, as long as you can love. That's the idea. The poet is one 19th century German guy named, let's see, what's his name? Something like Eckhart Fruchtkuchen. Yes, Eckhard Fruchtkuchen. That sounds good. No, actually, his name was Ferdinand Freiligrath. But, Eckhard Fruchtkuchen, I think, sort of suits the poem even better. So, what does he write? Here is the opening stanza, auf Deutsch. O Lieb, solang du lieben kannst. O Lieb, solang du lieben magst. Die Stunde kommt, wo du an Gräbern stehst und klagst. What does that mean? Well, it means, oh love, as long as you can, oh love, as long as you may, the hour comes when you will stand at the graveside and mourn. Isn't that chipper? Well, there you go. It's German Romantic poetry. So it has to be about love and death, preferably simultaneously. And in the very first stanza, that's what you get. And that stanza is repeated at the beginning and the end, quite naturally, because the last image that we want to be left with is that of love lost and mourning at the graveside. Now, apparently, in this poem, the love affair did not go so well. It doesn't say exactly whose fault it is, but it does say something about love while you can, because, you're going to have words and you're going to regret what you said, and I can only forgive you after I'm dead, and you're standing there looking at me in the grave, and I'm here in the grave looking up at you like this, looking up, presumably, under your dress or whatever. I mean, this being the 19th century. And you know that the dead person is a guy, for sure, and the survivor is female. So that is the intent of the poem. Now, Liszt's setting is for voice and piano, and the 3 Liebestraume are all transcriptions. We all know Liszt was at his best making transcriptions. And why not transcribe himself? So he transcribed this song as a piano work. And like everything Liszt did, whenever he transcribed or wrote anything, he never left it alone. And he diddled it. And what he did was he took the tune and he plays it basically 3 times. Although the last time it becomes progressively fragmented because you're standing by the grave mourning, right? So in between these repetitions of the theme, each time varied, there is a cadenza, a rippling cadenza in quick notes, just to give the piano something virtuosic to do. And that is the Liebestraum. That's all it is. 3 repetitions of the same melody, slightly varied each time, with those little virtuoso flashy interludes that are quite brief. And it's exquisitely beautiful. It really is. And it's a beautiful tune. And it's worth considering. One of the reasons this tune works so well is because you feel the words behind it. The repeated notes, the rhythms of speech. Liszt preserves those very, very carefully so that when you hear this melody, you really do get a sense that someone is speaking to you, that there's some message that he's trying to get across through purely instrumental means. And that's one of the things that makes the piece so effective. That and the fact that even guys who are not known as tunesmiths have their really good days. And this was a really good day for Liszt. No question about it. And the tune is absolutely gorgeous, as Richard points out. So I have a performance to play for you. The entire Liebestraum, and it's a great one. It is none other than, here we go, Earl Wild, because the very kind folk at Ivory Classics have given me permission to use their catalog of Earl Wild recordings, and I'm so excited about this. So we get to listen to the entire Liebestraum. And I think the interesting thing about this performance, about Earl Wild's version, is that, Earl Wild was known as, the last great romantic virtuoso. But his performance is extremely, I wouldn't call it restrained. Nothing he did was really restrained. But it's tasteful. truly, truly tasteful. It's beautifully done. It's so clear. The left and right hands are so beautifully balanced. He marries the melody with the accompaniment in such a harmonious and intelligent way. The cadenzas have a certain amount of restraint, they're like a sigh that just spontaneously erupts from the expression of the melody, and they fit so beautifully and so naturally. Because remember, really good romantic playing is not about being a vulgar showman. It's about the more subtle qualities too, such as touch and pedaling and rubato. And what Wild contrives to do is allow the melody to shine forth and express itself in all of its fulsome yearning and ardor, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So here, without further ado, is Earl Wild playing Liszt's Liebestraum number 3, courtesy of Mr. Richard Sauer. Gorgeous, wasn't it? Absolutely beautiful. One of the greatest melodies in the world. I have no doubt. Maybe you do. I don't know. Just because the thing gets played a billion times, that doesn't mean it's not justified. There isn't a good reason. And there has to be something said for a melody which touches so many people and has continued to do so for so many years, to the point where it gets arranged for everything from harp to flute to piano to cello to electric guitar to left-handed sewer flute to any sort of contraption that plays notes. You can hear it do the Liebestraum number 3. And I think that says something about Liszt's quality as a composer and also about our communal experience of a great melody. Even when the original language was horrible, soggy German romantic poetry by some guy named Fruchtkuchen or whatever his name was. So enjoy Liszt's Liebestraum number 3, and please do feel free to continue to suggest the greatest melodies in the world. And, some of you have asked, they don't have to be classical melodies. They really don't. I mean, it's perfectly fine to do things that aren't classical. I mean, I would pick Eleanor Rigby, if I had a choice. I think that there are plenty of other melodies that qualify, but just be aware of the fact that the ones that I can play are going to be constrained by my ability to get permission to do them without incurring copyright claims. That's an issue. And so, that's my problem, and I'll deal with it as best I can. And I'm very, very thankful to the folks at Ivory Classics for allowing me to use this Earl Wild recording of the Liebestraum number 3. So keep on giving me your suggestions and keep on listening, folks. Thank you so much. Take care.